Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with your host, Lee Ashby Watts. Our podcast is committed to delivering marketing, branding, and strategy advice for the small business owner. And now, let's start connecting the dots.
Well, hello. Welcome to Connecting the Dots podcast. I am Lee Ashby Watts with Ashby & Watts Consulting. Thank you so much for joining us today. So if you are a fan of the show and you receive a lot of great advice on marketing, branding, strategy, any of that, please like, please share, please subscribe to the channel. Would love to continue to have your support. And also would love for you to visit my website at ashbyandwatts.com. I'm doing some changes and have some new offerings and services going on, so would love for you to see all about that. And today, actually, I'm going to talk about a topic that connects very closely to one of the offerings I want to emphasize, but I'm going to talk about just an important topic for everyone, whether you're personal branding, whether you have your own company, organization, ministry, whatever it is. And that's the importance of knowing your story. Now, I did a live interview on Facebook yesterday with one of my clients and a good friend of mine about the power of telling stories. And there was one question that she asked me that I really want to talk about on the podcast just for a few minutes today. And that is, why does our story matter? Why is it so important for us to tell stories? Why is it important for us to know our story? And why is storytelling so closely linked to branding and marketing? Why is it important? And if you don't know your story, if you don't know your personal story or how to tell your personal story or the story of your company, of your brand, then you definitely need to contact me. If you look in the notes below, I'll make sure I leave a way for you to do that. But it's important. It's the foundation of everything. So many people want to jump to social media or, doing a YouTube channel or selling and doing all these things that we believe will help our bottom line and help us build this wonderful empire, right? Of course we do. I do it. I did it. So many people want that. But problems come when you are unable to articulate your values and the story of who you are throughout your digital footprint, throughout your social media, when you're sitting across the table from a potential client or customer. You need to know your story. And again, this is for personally or as an organization. So why does our story matter? Number one is story connects people. It connects people to ideas, to thoughts, to the service, the product. Stories are about connection. And, you may get someone to buy something one time, but for you to have them continually come back to you and to become raving fans of your brand, they need to be connected to you. And stories help us do that, right? Whether we think the story is an outright once upon a time story, or if there is a way that we have kind of created the story of a company, of a brand, of an organization through different things that they've done, said or not said, how they've displayed themselves online. We have created some type of story based on actions that they've taken. So when you think about your company and your brand, are your stories aligning with who you believe you are and what you want to put out to the world? If it's not aligned and if it doesn't clearly represent what you believe to be true and what you want to be said about your company, your brand, your values, then it's time to reassess, to align, to visit me and get a brand clarity report. But seriously, it's very important that you know how to connect with the right audience. And that kind of leads to even my second point, that When you understand your story, your values, your brand promise, and you know how to communicate that, you naturally will attract the right audience to you. So many people want to, again, skip past the audience. They want to say, oh, yeah, my audience are females between 30 and 50, and they like to wear high heel shoes, whatever the situation. We want to dwindle it down to something as simple as that. But you've got to be really connected and understand your audience, because once you do that, you know how to tell your story. The beauty and the essence of telling a story is not changing anything about yourself or your story. It's about knowing what parts to leave out and which parts to emphasize. And when you know your audience, you know how to connect with them, you know the parts that they need to hear. And trust me, when you know your story and you know how to tell your story, again, this could be your personal story or the story of your organization or company, you don't have to market and sell so hard, right? Good branding lays the foundation so well that you don't have to sell so hard. People that have to put a lot of work into selling usually have not done a great job at branding. So make sure you know your story, you know your brand, you know how to communicate that. The third thing, I think I'm on two. So number one is kind of the connection. Again, stories help us connect, right? And number two is stories help us to identify our audience, and our audience can identify us. It's like, where have you been all my life, right? When you know how to tell your story. And number three is credibility. Stories help add credibility to who you are and what you're doing. Credibility is about trust. And trust me when I say marketing at the end of the day is about trusting what you're putting your money into, trusting the relationship, trusting. That's why when I talk about consistency is so important with your action plans for your marketing, because consistency establishes trust, and so do stories. So it establishes credibility and it establishes trust. So know how to tell your story in such a way that's so compelling that it helps your audience trust you. And lastly, I want to talk about just the noise, right? I do a presentation often called Rising Above the Noise, especially because there's so much marketing and selling and things going on out there. I do the presentation asking and encouraging marketers and brand owners to learn how to rise above the noise. But part of rising above the noise is realizing that when we add stories to the noise, it makes music, right? So nobody remembers the noise, but people do remember music. And when you add stories to the noise, you can create a beautiful song, beautiful music. So stories help take those disjointed things in our businesses, in our personalities, in things that have happened to us, and it helps pull it together to make sense and to make a beautiful, beautiful song, beautiful music. So you may not have understood why certain things happen to you in your business or to you personally, but when you lay those all out and you have someone like me, sit and listen to it and help you pull together all of that to create the story and even create some of the values that are important to you, then again, you create that story and it becomes beautiful and it connects and it adds credibility, and you help attract your right audience, your right clients and customers. So it's about connection, clients and customers, and credibility. And again, just creating the beautiful music. So that is all I wanted to share with you all today. Just 10 minutes to remind you all that your story matters and that you should be telling your story. And if you're not and you need someone to help you tell that story, I do offer a brand clarity report where I will sit with you for an hour plus time, taking notes, listening, asking you questions to get drilled down, and then come back to you with a report that we go over and help you again just find the clarity, find the story, and know how to apply that to your business, to your organization, or just simply to your personal brand. So thank you so much for listening again to Connecting the Dots. I am Lee Ashby Watts. Please visit me at Ashby & Watts Consulting or follow me on Instagram, Lee_Ashby and Watts. Would love to see you there. Let me know that you've found me through my podcast. I would love to hear that. And don't forget to subscribe and tell others about this podcast. Thank you so much, and you all have an amazing day and keep connecting those dots.